Hey, my name is Daniel. I'm 31. Until last month, I was just the IT guy who lived upstairs from a married woman I barely knew. Then, one night at 2 a.m., she texted me about a computer emergency, and when I knocked on her door, she looked me in the eyes and said, "You deserve a little extra reward." The scent of lemon oil and citrus tea, the way her wedding ring caught the lamplight as she handed me that velvet pouch full of secrets. I can still feel her lips against my cheek when she whispered, "Hold on to the parts of me I'm not allowed to be." If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments, because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I couldn't sleep that night. Again. It was 2:11 a.m. when I found myself staring at my laptop screen, cursor blinking in an empty text box. The draft I'd been typing and deleting for the past hour said just 4 words. "Are you okay, Maya?" 4 words I couldn't send. My studio apartment felt smaller in the blue glow of the screen. Outside my window, the motion sensor light in the courtyard suddenly snapped on, casting harsh white light across the brick pathway. Footsteps echoed up from the stairwell, slow, deliberate, someone coming home late. I deleted the message and closed the laptop. My name is Daniel Cole. I'm 31 and I fix computers for a living. Freelance IT support. Basically, I'm the guy people call when their laptop won't start or their files disappear. I rent a small studio on the second floor of Brooks Court, a quiet condo complex where the HOA sends passive aggressive emails about noise levels and the neighbors know each other's schedules better than their own. Maya Brooks lived directly below me, 44, married, elegant in that effortless way that comes from having money. She coordinated events for some art gallery downtown and always smelled like lemon oil and expensive tea. We'd shared maybe 20 words in the 6 months since I'd moved in. But I noticed things. The way she carried her canvas tote with both hands, careful not to let the leather straps creak, how her porch light blinked twice some nights before going dark, the fact that her husband Marcus traveled 3 weeks out of every month for work. I noticed too much. The footsteps in the stairwell faded. The motion light clicked off. I was about to head to bed when my phone buzzed. "Are you awake? Computer emergency. Maya." I stared at the message for a full minute. Emergency could mean anything: virus, crashed hard drive, lost files, or maybe she just needed someone to talk to at 2 a.m., and a broken computer was easier to admit than loneliness. I grabbed my toolkit. The stairwell at Brooks Court had this particular sound, hollow, like an echo chamber. Every step on the metal stairs sent a soft ping through the handrail that you could hear 3 floors up. Mrs. Ellison in 4B claimed she could identify residents by their footsteps alone. I believed her. I descended quietly, my toolkit bag pressed against my side to muffle the clink of screwdrivers and cable adapters. The building felt different at night, smaller, more intimate. Maya's door was 1C, corner unit with windows facing the courtyard. When she opened it, the scent hit me immediately, that blend of lemon furniture oil and citrus tea that seemed to follow her everywhere. She was wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Thank you," she said softly. "I know it's late, but I have a presentation tomorrow and everything just froze." Her voice had this quality, measured, careful, like she'd practiced saying normal things in a way that revealed nothing important. We'd never been alone together before. In the hallway, we were neighbors. At the mailboxes, we were polite strangers. But standing in her doorway at 2:15 a.m. felt different. Forbidden, maybe. "Let me take a look," I said. Her apartment was exactly what I'd imagined. Clean lines, muted colors, tasteful art on the walls, a dining table that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She led me to a laptop sitting open on the kitchen island, screen frozen on a PowerPoint slide about donor engagement strategies. "It just stopped," she explained, hovering nearby as I sat down. "I was working on the slides and suddenly nothing would respond." I pressed the power button, held it down until the screen went black. The reboot took 3 minutes. While we waited, Maya made tea, some expensive loose leaf blend that smelled like bergamot and honey. She moved around her kitchen with quiet efficiency, careful not to let the cabinet doors slam or the kettle whistle too loud. Considerate of the neighbors, I realized. Considerate of me. How long has it been acting up? I asked as the desktop loaded. Few weeks. It's been slow, freezing randomly. She paused, watching me navigate through her files. I'm not very good with technology. That was when I spotted the first red flag. Her documents folder showed two sync conflicts, files trying to upload to a cloud storage account that was linked to multiple devices. When Cloud Sync gets confused, it can lock up entire systems while trying to resolve conflicts between different versions of the same file. But that wasn't the interesting part. The interesting part was what was causing the conflicts. I could see the file names in the error log. Therapy, homework, week 12 docs, and letter to Marcus draft 7 docs were both trying to sync simultaneously from different devices. Maya was getting therapy. Maya was writing letters to her husband that she'd never sent. I think I found the problem, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Your cloud storage is confused. It's trying to sync the same files from multiple devices. She set a mug of tea beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from the ceramic. Is that bad? Not bad, just messy. Like having two conversations at once. I pulled up the sync settings. Do you use this laptop somewhere else? Coffee shop? Office? Sometimes at the gallery, and Marcus has an iPad that's connected to the same account. Marcus, her husband who traveled, who probably had access to everything she saved, every draft she wrote, every file she thought was private. I showed her how to separate her personal files from the shared cloud folder. It was simple. Create a new sync folder just for gallery work, keep everything else local. But as I explained it, I noticed her hands shaking slightly around her tea mug. This will keep your personal documents private, I said carefully. She nodded, watching my fingers move across the trackpad. We were sitting close, close enough that when she leaned over to see the screen, her sweater brushed against my shoulder, close enough that I caught a hint of her perfume under the citrus tea scent. You deserve a little extra reward, she said quietly, for coming over so late. I froze. The words hung in the air between us, loaded with possibility. This was the moment where lines get crossed or boundaries get reinforced, where a lonely married woman and her helpful neighbor either stay strangers or become something else entirely. I turned to look at her, expecting, what? A hand on my arm? A meaningful glance? Some signal that we were stepping into dangerous territory? Instead, Maya stood up and walked to the kitchen counter. When she came back, she was holding a manila envelope. I need a witness, she said, not a rescuer. She slid the envelope across the table. Inside were printouts, breathing exercises from a therapy website, a worksheet about communication in marriage, and a photo of a calendar page with angry red X's marked through certain dates. I'm trying, she said. In my marriage, I go to counseling every Tuesday. I've been working on myself, but I need someone to know that I'm actually putting in effort. Someone who isn't Marcus, someone who isn't my therapist. I stared at the papers. This wasn't seduction. This was something else entirely. Something raw and honest and more intimate than flirting could ever be. She was showing me proof that she was fighting for her marriage, even when no one was watching. Maya, I started. I just need you to know, she interrupted, that I'm not the kind of person who gives up easily, even when things are hard. The laptop chimed softly. The sync conflict had resolved. While we'd been talking, the system had finished reorganizing her files, but now I could see her documents folder clearly, and there was something else there, something that made my chest tight. Drafts folder, 12 files, and one of them was labeled to Daniel upstairs. Docs. Maya followed my gaze to the screen. Her face went pale. That's not. She reached for the laptop, but I gently moved it away. I won't open it, I said. But Maya, you wrote something to be. Me? She sat back down, heavier this time. The confidence from a moment ago had cracked, revealing something vulnerable underneath. I see you sometimes, she said quietly. In the cafe on 5th Street. You work there most afternoons. You always sit by the window, and you always order the same thing. Black coffee and whatever sandwich they recommend. You tip well, and you're polite to the barista even when she gets your order wrong. She'd been watching me, the same way I'd been watching her. I wrote you a letter after the first time I saw you there. Nothing inappropriate, just thank you for being kind to people, for existing quietly in the world without taking up too much space. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. I never sent it because that would be weird, right? The married lady downstairs sending friendly notes to her young neighbor. I'm not that young, I said. You're not that old either. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the motion light snapped on again. Probably Mrs. Ellison walking her ancient terrier. Maya and I both glanced toward the window, suddenly aware that we were visible from the courtyard. Two silhouettes in a warm kitchen at 2:30 a.m. Maya stood and closed the blinds. When she turned back, something had shifted. The air felt thicker, more charged. We were no longer just neighbor and helpful IT guy. We were two people who'd been circling each other for months, finally admitting we'd noticed. I should go, I said. You should, she agreed. But neither of us moved. That's when I heard it. Footsteps on the landing outside. Heavy, deliberate. A key turning in a lock somewhere upstairs. Mrs. Ellison probably, or maybe Tessa, the night concierge, doing her evening rounds. Maya and I held our breath until the sounds faded. When the hallway was quiet again, we both exhaled at the same time. This is dangerous, she whispered. Yes, I said. But I still didn't leave. Maya finished organizing her files while I pretended to run diagnostic tests on her hardware. Really? I was just buying time. The repair had taken 20 minutes. We'd been sitting at her kitchen table for over an hour. She worked with focused concentration, moving documents into new folders, setting up the privacy settings I'd shown her. Every few minutes, she'd ask a quiet question. Should this go in the gallery folder? Or is this private enough? I answered each question professionally, but I was acutely aware of everything else. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated, the soft scratch of her pen on paper as she took notes, the fact that her wedding ring caught the light every time she reached for her tea mug. There's something else, she said eventually, if you have time. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out what looked like an old-fashioned flash drive, one of those vintage USB sticks from maybe 10 years ago, the kind that used to come free with computer purchases. I found this in a box of old things. Family photos, I think. But when I plug it in, nothing happens. I turned the drive over in my hands. It was scratched, the plastic casing cracked along one edge. Might be corrupted. Or the file format could be too old for your current system. Would you be willing to take a look? Not tonight, she added quickly, but maybe this weekend. Another reason to see her? Another excuse to sit in her kitchen and breathe her air and pretend we were just neighbors helping each other out. Sure, I said. I have some recovery software that might work. She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her. Not the polite neighbor smile or the careful gallery coordinator smile, something genuine. Thank you, Daniel. The way she said my name made something flutter in my chest, like she'd been practicing it the same way I'd been practicing hers. I packed up my toolkit and she walked me to the door. In the entryway, she handed me a small gallery pass, thick cardstock with elegant typography. We have an opening next Friday. Local artists, nothing fancy, but if you're free, she paused. Don't tag me if you post any pictures. Social media protocol for secret friendships. Don't create digital evidence that we know each other better than we should. I'll be invisible, I promised. Good. I stepped into the hallway. The motion light in the courtyard was off, leaving us in soft darkness. Maya stood in her doorway, backlit by the warm glow of her apartment. Daniel, I turned back. The letter I wrote you, the one you didn't read, it wasn't inappropriate, but it wasn't neutral either. And then she closed the door. I climbed the stairs to my apartment with my mind racing. The toolkit felt heavier than usual, my hands slightly unsteady as I fumbled with my keys. Inside my studio, everything looked exactly the same. My fold-out desk, my coffee maker, my carefully organized cables and adapters. But something had shifted. Maya Brooks wasn't just the elegant married woman downstairs anymore. She was a real person with therapy homework and unsent letters and a 10-year-old USB drive full of memories she couldn't access. She was someone who noticed baristas and tipping etiquette and whether her neighbors were kind to strangers. She was someone who'd been writing letters to me that she never sent. I sat on my bed and pulled out the gallery pass. Heavy paper stock, expensive printing. Brooks Contemporary, opening reception, Friday, 7:10 p.m. Maya's name was listed in small print as the event coordinator. Under my keyboard, I had a stack of business cards from potential clients. Steady work, boring work, the kind that paid rent and kept me fed. Normal. But normal felt impossible now. My laptop chimed with a new email. Automatically, I expected work, some late night panic about a crashed server or corrupted files. Instead, it was from Maya's gallery email address. The subject line read, "Thank you plus weekend availability." I opened it. "Daniel, thank you for tonight. Professional, efficient, exactly what I needed. Would Saturday afternoon work for the USB project? I can provide coffee and proper payment for your time. Best Maya B." Formal, careful, but she'd sent it at 3:17 a.m., which meant she'd been awake thinking about me the same way I'd been awake thinking about her. I started typing a reply 3 different times: professional acceptance, casual agreement, something warmer that acknowledged what had happened between us in her kitchen. In the end, I sent, "Saturday afternoon works. Coffee sounds perfect." 6 words, safe, friendly, nothing that couldn't be explained if Marcus ever read it. But my hands were shaking when I hit send. Outside my window, the courtyard was empty and quiet. Most of the building slept peacefully. Mrs. Ellison with her terrier, Tessa finishing her concierge shift, responsible adults with normal lives and appropriate boundaries. Only Maya and I were awake at 3:20 a.m., sending careful emails that said nothing and everything at once. I placed the gallery pass on my nightstand and tried to sleep, but my mind kept replaying the moment she'd closed the blinds, the weight of her confession about watching me at the cafe, the way she'd said my name like a secret she was finally allowed to tell. Saturday felt impossibly far away. The next morning, I made coffee and checked my phone for work emails. 3 new client requests: a startup with server issues, an elderly woman whose grandson had broken the internet, and a corporate contract referral from Ryan Patel, my only real friend in the city. Ryan's message was longer than usual. "Hey man, opportunity came up. Management consultant looking for ongoing IT support. Remote work, steady pay, probably boring as hell. Guy travels a lot, so it's mostly emergency stuff. Interested? Name's Marcus Brooks. Works out of Brooks Court area." Marcus Brooks, Maya's husband. I read the message 4 times, trying to convince myself it was coincidence. But Brooks Court wasn't a common address, and Marcus wasn't exactly a common name. The universe was offering me a direct line into Maya's life, and I couldn't tell if it was opportunity or disaster. I forwarded Ryan's email to my work folder and didn't reply. Instead, I walked to the cafe on 5th Street, the one where Maya had been watching me. I ordered my usual black coffee, recommended sandwich, and sat by the window. For the first time in months, I was hyper aware of my visibility from the street. Was Maya walking by? Was she seeing me the same way I'd been seeing her? The barista, a college student named Jamie, brought my order with her usual cheerful smile. Turkey and Swiss today. Our baker made the bread fresh this morning. Perfect, I said, tipping her well like always. But as I ate, I kept thinking about Maya's observation, how I was kind to people and existed quietly in the world without taking up too much space. It sounded like a compliment, but also like something sad, like she'd been watching a lonely person and recognizing something familiar. My phone buzzed. Text from Maya. Quick question. Do you prefer morning or afternoon for Saturday? I stared at the message. Such a simple question, but loaded with implications. Morning felt casual, friendly. Afternoon felt more intentional, like a choice to spend the better part of a day together. Afternoon works best, I replied. 2 p.m.? Perfect. 3 messages, 12 words total. But my heart was racing like we'd just planned something scandalous. I finished my sandwich and walked home through the courtyard. Maya's blinds were open again, her apartment bright with morning sunlight. I could see her moving around inside, a flash of dark hair, the corner of her dining table, nothing specific but somehow intimate anyway. On the second floor landing, I ran into Mrs. Ellison walking her ancient terrier. Morning, Daniel, she said warmly. Working today? Always, I replied. How's Chester doing? She smiled and scratched behind the dog's ears. Old but stubborn, like his owner. She paused, studying my face. You know, Maya Brooks mentioned you helped with her computer troubles. Very kind of you to make a house call so late. My stomach dropped. Just neighbor helping neighbor, I said, keeping my voice light. Of course, though I do think it's nice when young people take time to help others. Not everyone would come running at 2 a.m. for a computer emergency. She knew exactly what time I'd gone downstairs, which meant she probably knew exactly how long I'd stayed. Technology problems never happen at convenient times, I said. Mrs. Ellison nodded sagely. True enough. Well, I'm sure Maya appreciated the assistance. She's been under a lot of stress lately with Marcus traveling so much. Another loaded comment. Mrs. Ellison wasn't just making conversation, she was fishing for information, or maybe warning me. Hard to tell which. I should get to work, I said. Have a good day, Mrs. Ellison. You too, dear. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, acutely aware that she was probably watching me go. In a building like Brooks Court, privacy was an illusion. Everyone knew everyone's schedules, their visitors, their late night activities. Maya and I weren't just crossing personal boundaries, we were doing it under surveillance. Inside my studio, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The referral from Ryan was still in my inbox, along with contact information for Marcus Brooks. One phone call, and I could be working directly with Maya's husband. It would be the smart move professionally. Steady income, regular client, exactly the kind of work I needed to build my business. But it would also mean lying to both of them. Taking Marcus's money while spending afternoons in his wife's kitchen, pretending I didn't know about her therapy homework or her unsent letters or the way she'd watched me at the cafe for months. I closed the laptop without responding to Ryan. Some opportunities were too dangerous to accept. Saturday was still 3 days away, but I was already counting hours. I spent Thursday and Friday pretending to work while actually thinking about Maya. Every email felt like a distraction, every client call like an interruption to the real business of wondering what would happen Saturday afternoon. Friday evening, I found myself standing in front of my closet like a teenager getting ready for a first date, which was ridiculous. This wasn't a date. This was a neighbor helping another neighbor recover files from an old USB drive. Professional, practical, completely innocent. I chose dark jeans and a button down shirt. Clean, but not trying too hard. The gallery opening was that night too. Maya's event. I'd been carrying the invitation in my wallet all week, taking it out occasionally to run my thumb over the expensive cardstock. Don't tag me if you post pictures, she'd said. The rules of whatever this was between us. I decided not to go. Too risky, too visible, too much like crossing a line we hadn't agreed to cross yet. Instead, I stayed home and watched Netflix until midnight, hyper aware that Maya was somewhere across the city in a room full of art and wine and important people, wearing something elegant and speaking in that careful, measured voice of hers. I wondered if she looked for me in the crowd. I wondered if she was disappointed when I didn't show. Saturday afternoon arrived with unseasonable warmth. I knocked on Maya's door at exactly 2 p.m., carrying my laptop bag and a small toolkit for hardware issues, professional equipment for a professional job. She answered wearing jeans and a soft gray sweater that made her look younger, more relaxed. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders. No makeup, or so little I couldn't tell. Perfect timing, she said. Coffee's fresh. Her apartment smelled different in the daylight, still that signature blend of lemon oil and citrus tea, but warmer somehow. More lived in. She led me to the dining table where she'd already set up. 2 mugs, a plate of cookies that looked homemade, and the old USB drive sitting next to a legal pad covered with notes. I tried to remember what might be on here, she said, settling into the chair beside me. Family photos, definitely. Maybe some old work files from when I freelanced before the gallery job. I plugged the drive into my laptop. Nothing happened for 30 seconds. Then a warning dialog popped up. Device needs to be repaired before accessing. Corrupted file system, I explained, but recoverable. This might take a while, maybe an hour or two. I have nowhere else to be, Maya said. The recovery software loaded slowly, scanning thousands of damaged file fragments. While we waited, Maya poured coffee from a French press that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The coffee was perfect, rich, smooth, the kind that made my usual instant variety taste like dirt water. How was the opening last night? I asked. Successful. Good turnout, solid sales. She paused. I kept expecting to see you. I thought about it, but you were being smart, she smiled ruefully. Probably smarter than I was, sending you that invitation. Why did you? Maya considered the question, wrapping her hands around her coffee mug. Honestly, because I wanted to see you somewhere else, away from this building, away from the neighbor dynamic. I wanted to know what you'd look like in a room full of strangers. And now? Now I'm glad you didn't come. It would have been complicated. The recovery program chimed softly, first batch of files retrieved. I opened the recovered folder and immediately saw what we were dealing with. Hundreds of photos spanning what looked like 15 years. Maya, as a young woman, maybe late 20s, in various cities and settings, beach vacations, hiking trips, gallery events from her early career. Oh, Maya breathed, leaning closer to see the screen. I forgot about these. She clicked on a photo of herself standing in front of a small art gallery, maybe 29 years old, wearing a sundress and holding a bouquet of flowers. Her smile was radiant, unguarded. My first job in the art world, she said. Gallery assistant in Portland. I was so proud that day. You look happy, I said. I was. Everything felt possible then. She scrolled through more photos. Maya at museum openings, Maya hiking mountain trails, Maya laughing with friends at dinner parties, All of them from before Marcus, before marriage, before the careful composure. I knew. This was me, she said quietly, before I learned to be appropriate. We spent the next hour going through the recovered files. Maya provided commentary for almost every photo, telling me stories about road trips with college friends, failed art projects, a brief period when she'd considered moving to New York to work at the Whitney. What changed? I asked. I met Marcus. He was stable, successful. He offered security that freelance gallery work couldn't provide. She paused at a photo of herself on a beach, arms spread wide to embrace the sky. I thought stability was what I wanted. And now? Now, I'm not sure what I want, except. She didn't finish the sentence, but she didn't need to. The except was sitting right next to her, watching her rediscover pieces of herself she'd forgotten existed. The recovery program chimed again. More files restored. This batch included documents, old resumes, college papers, and a folder labeled Journal Entries 2010-2012. Maya's face changed when she saw the journal folder. I forgot I'd saved these. We don't have to look, I said quickly. No, it's okay. Just strange, seeing your younger self's thoughts preserved like this. She opened one of the journal files. The first few lines were visible in the preview. March 15th, 2011. Had coffee with M again today. He's everything I should want. Kind, successful, knows exactly what he wants from life. But when he talks about 5-year plans and starter homes, I feel like I'm watching myself from outside my own body, like I'm agreeing to become someone else. Maya closed the file quickly. I was 28 when I wrote that, so sure I knew what was best for me. What were you afraid of? I asked. Being alone, being broke, being one of those women who chases dreams until she's 40 and has nothing to show for it. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. Turned out I became one of those women who settled until she's 44 and wonders what might have been. You're not settled, I said. You're here. You're trying. Trying what exactly? Good question. What were we doing, really? What was this afternoon about? I turned back to the laptop, pretending to check the recovery progress, but I could feel Maya watching me, waiting for an answer I didn't have. I don't know, I admitted, but it feels important. Important how? Like, like maybe we're both trying to remember who we used to be, before we got careful. Maya was quiet for a long moment. When I looked up, she was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read, grateful, maybe, or scared. Daniel. A knock at the door interrupted whatever she was going to say. 3 sharp raps, followed by a cheerful voice. Package delivery! Tessa, the concierge. Maya jumped up to answer, but not before I caught the flash of panic in her eyes. We'd been sitting close, leaning toward each other over the laptop. Anyone looking in would see 2 people sharing something intimate. Just a second, Maya called. She turned to me. Kitchen, she whispered. I grabbed my laptop and stepped into the kitchen, out of sight from the front door. Through the pass-through window, I could see Maya opening the door with a bright, professional smile. Afternoon delivery for you? Tessa said. Art supplies from that gallery vendor. Perfect, thank you. Maya accepted the package, then hesitated. Tessa, can I ask you something? Hypothetically? My heart stopped. If someone wanted to start fresh, new city, new job, how hard would that be? Practically speaking, Tessa laughed. Depends on how much baggage you're carrying. Financial baggage, emotional baggage, legal baggage. Why, you planning an escape? Just curious. Thank you for the package. Anytime. Have a good weekend, Maya. The door closed. Maya set the package on the entry table and stood there for a moment, not moving. I could see her reflection in the hall mirror. Shoulders tense, hands pressed flat against her thighs. You can come out, she said without turning around. Sorry about that. I returned to the dining table. The laptop was still running recovery scans, another hour of work ahead of us. But something had changed in the last 5 minutes. The easy intimacy was gone, replaced by awareness of how precarious this all was. Maya, I started. I know, she said quickly. I know this is complicated. I know it's not fair to you, and I know it's not smart for me, but I can't. She sat back down, closer this time, close enough that I could see the gold flecks in her brown eyes. I can't stop thinking about Tuesday night, about how it felt to have someone really listen to me, not therapist listening, not polite conversation listening. Someone who wanted to understand. I do want to understand, I said. Why? Another good question. Why was I here? Why was I risking the awkwardness of neighbors who'd crossed lines, the possibility of angry husbands and HOA complaints and professional complications? Because, I said finally, you're the first person in months who's made me feel like more than just the IT guy, like maybe I'm someone worth writing letters to. Maya's eyes went soft. Daniel, I know it's complicated. I know you're married, and I'm probably too young, and we live in the same building with nosy neighbors. I know all of that. But, but I've been alone for a long time, and being here with you feels like remembering what it's like to connect with someone. Really connect. We stared at each other across the small space between our chairs. I could hear her breathing, shallow and quick. I could smell her perfume mixing with the coffee scent. This was the moment where we either acknowledged what was happening between us or pretended it was still just neighbor helping neighbor. Maya reached out and touched my hand where it rested on the table, just her fingertips against my knuckles, but it felt like electricity. This is dangerous, she whispered. I know. If Marcus finds out, he won't. If the neighbors start talking, they won't have anything to talk about. But even as I said it, I was turning my hand palm up so her fingers could settle into mine. Her wedding ring was cool against my skin. What are we doing? She asked. I don't know, but I don't want to stop. Maya squeezed my fingers once, then pulled away. The files, she said. We should finish the files. Right, the USB drive, the innocent reason I was here. I turned back to the laptop, but my hand still tingled where she'd touched it. The recovery program showed another batch of files ready, more photos, some old work documents, and a video file labeled Beach Trip 2009 MP4. Video? Maya said, curious. I clicked play. The screen filled with shaky handheld footage of Maya and two friends on what looked like a California beach. They were younger, maybe mid-20s, laughing as they tried to build an elaborate sandcastle. Maya in the video wore a simple black bikini and no makeup, her hair wild from ocean wind. Turn it off, present-day Maya said quickly. Why? Because that girl doesn't exist anymore. But I didn't turn it off. On screen, young Maya was dancing around. The sandcastle, arms spread wide, spinning in circles while her friends cheered. She looked absolutely free. She's beautiful, I said. She was naive. She was alive. Maya watched herself spin on the beach, and I watched Maya watching herself. The contrast was heartbreaking. The woman on screen who embraced the sky, and the woman beside me who'd learned to be careful about everything. I miss her sometimes, Maya admitted quietly. Where did she go? She got scared. She met a man who offered her a safe life, and she thought that was the same as a happy life. The video ended. The laptop desktop returned, mundane and ordinary after the glimpse of Maya's younger self. What if... I started, then stopped. What if what? What if she's still there, the girl in the video? What if she just needs someone to remind her it's safe to come out? Maya turned to look at me. Really look at me. Daniel, I'm 44 years old. I'm married. I have responsibilities, commitments, a life I can't just abandon because I'm having some kind of midlife crisis. I'm not asking you to abandon anything. I'm just saying maybe there's room for both. The responsible Maya and the dancing on the beach Maya. Not in my world. In my world, you choose one or the other. According to who? She didn't answer immediately. The question hung between us, challenging assumptions she'd apparently never questioned. According to everyone, she said finally, society, my husband, my family, the gallery board, everyone who expects me to be a certain way. What about according to you? Another long pause. Outside, the afternoon light was shifting, casting longer shadows across the courtyard. Soon it would be evening, time for me to leave, time to return to our separate apartments and pretend this afternoon had been just a favor between neighbors. According to me, Maya said slowly, I think I've been pretending to be someone else for so long that I forgot it was pretending. The recovery program chimed one final time. All files restored, transfer complete. The old USB drive was now an archive of Maya's earlier self. Photos and journals and videos of a woman who danced on beaches and dreamed of bigger things. It's finished, I said. The files? Yes, everything's recovered. But neither of us moved to pack up the laptop. We sat in the golden afternoon light, surrounded by the evidence of who Maya used to be, and tried to figure out what happened next. I should go, I said eventually. You should, Maya agreed, but instead of getting up, she reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a small velvet pouch, the kind jewelry stores use for expensive pieces. There's something else, she said. Something I haven't told you. She opened the pouch and tipped its contents into her palm. Another USB drive, newer than the first one, with a piece of masking tape labeled, "For emergency only." What kind of emergency? I asked. Maya closed her OE fingers around the drive. The kind where I need to remember who I really am. She pressed the drive into my hand. Take it home. Don't look at it here. Don't tell me what you find. But if something happens, if I ever need to remember why I used to dance on beaches, maybe you could remind me. The drive was warm from her palm, small and light but somehow heavy with implication. Maya, please, I need someone to hold on to the parts of me I'm not allowed to be. I slipped the drive into my pocket. Okay. Okay. We packed up the laptop and cleaned up the coffee cups. Maya walked me to the door like she had Tuesday night, but this time she didn't hand me a gallery invitation or offer cryptic comments about unsent letters. This time, she stood on her toes and kissed my cheek. Just once, just barely, just long enough for me to catch her scent and feel the warmth of her lips against my skin. Thank you, she whispered, for listening, for seeing me. Thank you for trusting me. I stepped into the hallway. The motion light hadn't come on yet. It was still light enough outside that the sensors hadn't activated. Maya stood in her doorway, backlit again by the warm glow of her apartment. Daniel? Yeah? When you look at what's on that drive, try to remember that version of me, not the one who's afraid of everything. I will. She closed the door, and I climbed the stairs to my apartment. The velvet pouch felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Whatever was on that drive, Maya considered it important enough to trust me with, important enough to kiss me for. I sat at my desk and pulled out the USB drive. Small, silver, completely ordinary, but holding it felt like holding Maya's secrets, her real self, the parts of her that her husband and her therapist and her carefully curated life couldn't contain. I plugged it into my laptop. The drive contained a single folder. Just in case. Inside were documents that made my chest tight, copies of Maya's passport and birth certificate, bank account information for an account Marcus apparently didn't know about, contact information for a divorce lawyer in Seattle, flight confirmations for a trip to Portland, booked for next month but not yet taken, and one video file, Beach Dance Full Version.mp4. I clicked play. The screen filled with the same beach scene from the earlier video, but this version was longer, unedited. Young Maya dancing in the surf, spinning with her arms wide, laughing as waves crashed around her ankles. The camera caught her face clearly, pure joy, unself conscious, and radiant. But this version included something else. At the end, young Maya looked directly into the camera and said, "I'm going to remember this forever. When I'm old and boring and too afraid to dance, I'm going to watch this and remember what it felt like to be free." The video ended. I sat in the quiet of my studio apartment, holding Maya's escape plan and her promise to herself, and realized that Tuesday night had changed everything. Maya Brooks wasn't just the elegant married woman downstairs anymore. She was a woman planning her exit strategy, one carefully hidden document at a time, and she'd given me the keys to her freedom. My phone buzzed. Text from Maya. "Did you look?" "Yes," I replied. "And?" I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to find words for what I discovered. Finally, I typed, "I see her. The girl who danced on the beach. She's still there." Three dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Good. Hold on to her for me. Always. I closed the laptop and walked to my window. Outside, the courtyard was settling into evening, lights coming on in various apartments, people returning home from Saturday activities, the normal rhythm of a normal building full of normal lives. But nothing felt normal anymore. In one of those lit windows, Maya was probably making dinner, tidying up the evidence of our afternoon together, preparing to return to her role as the perfect gallery coordinator's wife. But upstairs, I was holding her secrets and her escape plans and the memory of her lips against my cheek. Some lines, once crossed, changed the entire map. I think we'd both realized that by now.